If you want to make beats that consistently sound good and stand out from the thousands of copy-paste beats out there, you need better sampling methods. Because if you keep using the same beginner techniques as everyone else, your beats will sound flat, boring, and basic. So today I'm going to show you a cool sampling technique that you can add to your toolbox. It's easy to learn and it can help you flip samples in a creative way, just like the greats. I call it the infinity method. Jay Dilla, a master of sampling, used this method in his beats, and today I'm going to show you how it works and how you can use it to make better beats. So to do this, all you need are 4 things. The first one's simple, the second one's unique, but the third and fourth one, most producers will forget these, but they're actually the most important part. So what are they? Well, let me show you this by sharing 3 of Jay Dilla's beats that all use the infinity method. Let's see if you can pick up on what these 4 things might be. Beat number 1 is Can't Hold the Torch by Busta Rhymes.
To improve, you should be happy I made it. Here to rep the game, fully change my style like the weather, giving you niggas new shit to make the game feel better. I'm
Beat number 2 is Dollar by Steve Spacek. And beat number 3 is Fly. Alright, so let's break these beats down to see how this infinity method works. I'm also going to make a beat using this method to show you. Now the first thing that all these beats share in common is kind of obvious. They all use vocal samples. That's the first thing you need for this sampling approach. Now if you struggle to find good samples with vocals in them, some common genres are classic soul or R&B, which you probably already know about. But an underrated genre that can give you amazing vocal samples is prog rock or psych rock. For example, that third Dilla beat Fly uses a sample from Caravan, which is a prog rock band from the 70s. But if you're looking for a little bit more help, I actually have a free cheat sheet with more than 100,000 of the best samples found on YouTube. You can download that in the description box below, and again, it's completely free. So for my beat, this is the sample that I will use to do this technique, which has tons of vocals in it. But here's the thing, lots of beats use vocal samples, it's nothing special nowadays. But what does make this method special and how it will help your beats actually stand out is how those vocals are used. For instance, take a look at how Jay Dilla uses the vocals in the sample for Can't Hold the Torch, where he uses this part of the sample here. And Dilla flips the vocal in the sample in a way where we get this long extended vocal note that sounds like it's continually playing throughout the beat. Same thing with Dollar. You can hear this part of the sample that gets used. It gets chopped in a way where we get this same effect, where that vocal note in the sample plays infinitely long in the beat. And this is what makes this method so different than every other basic sampling technique. We find one single vocal note and hold it for infinitely long, which just sounds far more unique compared to just sampling a simple vocal. And that's the second piece of the puzzle, using a long sustained vocal note from the sample and creating an infinitely long loop with it. So that's exactly what I will do with my sample here. There's a section in the middle of the sample where you can hear without sound. We have that extended vocal area that would fit perfectly with this idea. But having said that, here's the tricky part. You might be thinking, cool, I'll just find a vocal sample, stretch it out, and build a beat around it. Done. But if that's all you do, you'll probably hit a wall fast, because even though this does sound unique, it can get repetitive very fast. So how can we stop the beat from getting boring? Well, if we go back and listen again to Jay Dilla's beat, you can hear in the first beat, he takes these musical instruments from the exact same sample and layers them underneath. In Eve, every once in a while, he uses a different part of the sample where the vocal says something different and there's a different melody to what he's saying. After that, he goes right back into this infinitely long vocal note. And in Fly, Dilla adds his own musical idea underneath with this insanely jumpy bass line. And this is what's able to provide that variation into an otherwise monotone and possibly boring beat idea. So the third element is adding musicality. Whether you pull this from the sample or you just add it yourself, you'll probably need more alongside the sample to give your beat some sort of sense of musicality and to counterbalance that single monotone vocal note. Now this might be something that you struggle with to build your own musical patterns alongside your sample, and I can show you a way to do this. So first, let me start by chopping the sample up to create that infinite idea you can hear. We have this infinitely long vocal note playing. Next, what I'm going to do is open up Note Grabber. This is my plugin that lets you see every note inside of a sample. And one way I like to use this is to just take musical ideas that already exist in the sample and then use them elsewhere for my beat. So here we have this musical phrase that goes G, A, then an F sharp, a B, and then down here we have yet another B at a lower octave. And so after drawing those notes inside of Note Grabber, I can just drag this into my beat and use this exact idea to create the synthy layer underneath my sample. So now I have a solid starting idea for my pattern that I know works with my beat because Note Grabber just showed me exactly what notes actually exist in my sample. And this makes starting and building upon my idea so much more easier. So now I'll expand this idea a bit more. But there's one final thing that I want to mention. You do have to be careful with how you do this. And this is my final element that I really recommend you be careful and think closely about. With this sampling approach, if we think about it, we have this unique texture standing out in the beat, and it's also constantly playing. What I'm talking about is that infinitely long vocal note. Plus, like I mentioned, you'll probably need to add some more musical ideas of your own into the beat. So even with just two elements, it's gonna feel easy for this beat to feel overly full and to accidentally overproduce if you're not careful. So for my beat, for example, at this stage, I'm not even gonna try to add more instruments in. I don't feel like the beat needs it, but also because I'm pretty sure the beat doesn't even have enough space for one more sound. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'll simply just add drums into the beat like so. And then as a final test that I always recommend to beat makers, it's one of the laws that I follow to make sure that I make a good beat before I finalize the idea. I'm going to add an acapella over top. So this will let me hear how this all sounds together and to double check and make sure that I haven't overproduced.
Stay calm and meditate, but know I gotta be on. Don't be alarmed, pistol in my palm to pick apart you pussy.
So I like the way this sounds. It has a nice balance. There's a level of simplicity to the beat that allows the rapping to actually come through and sound clear without distracting the listener. And this is the final element that I really recommend you always do at the end: simplify. Now, before you try this, I do want to mention as a side note, you don't need a vocal sample to do this technique. There are plenty of beats that do something similar, but with just a normal instrument that gets played infinitely long. A great example of this is Go by Madlib, where he uses a horn. So that's one thing that I wanted to mention. As well, this isn't the only J Dilla method that can help you unlock next level beats. I actually have another video on his beat making techniques next to me, which I highly recommend you check out. By adding all of these sampling techniques to your arsenal, you will become an unstoppable beat maker. So click the video next to me if this sounds good to you, and yeah, click it.